Warning, this is a review of a horror movie. If you're not a fan of horror, I don't recommend you watch this video. For children, I won't say you aren't allowed. I know some children who are braver than others. I will say, ask your parents' permission before continuing this video. If they say yes, then continue. If not, look, I made a video on a Goofy movie, go watch that. For those who continue because you want to test yourself or you're lazy, carry on. Viewer discretion is advised. Oh, hi there. Is that a gun? Oh no. I'm dying. Ade due Dembella. Give me the power, I beg of you! Huh? Oh my god, it worked! Hey, look, it's my body! Looking real dead there. Oh, hello everybody, my name's Mohammed and I'm dead. Well, not anymore. Well, you see, I cheated death and now I'm a bear. According to the rules, I should probably tell someone who I am so I can take over their body before this body becomes my permanent body. I can't be bothered to. Don't ask how I got up here. You know, the scenario that I'm in reminds me of this one movie I watched recently. And you see, it would probably be hard for me to talk about it considering what's happening with me right now. But I did re-record that in advance. Good thing I record everything I do. You know, as a kid I was scared of this doll. Well, time to face my fears and find out what was so bad. It wasn't so bad. For those who don't know, Child's Play is a 1988 horror movie written by Don Mancini, produced by David Kirshner, and directed by Tom Holland. No, not that one. That one. And it was published by MGM. The movie was written by Don Mancini and was originally called Batteries Not Included, later changed to Blood Buddies. The original movie's plot was going to be way different from the final movie, with Andy bringing Chucky to life by mixing his blood into the doll. The doll will go on to kill anyone who Andy didn't like. This is kind of like the plot to the 2019 reboot, except good. After producer David Kirshner got a hold of the project and Tom Holland was attached to direct, they rewrote the script and added the voodoo element and Charles Lee Ray, which in my opinion was a good call. The movie introduces us to Chucky the Killer Doll. Chucky is probably the most well-known horror icon up there, along with Jason, Michael, and Freddy. Though, I think this might be for more public audiences rather than hardcore horror fan bases. I think they see him more as a B-grade character, while the public is obsessed with this guy. At least that's what Hot Topic lends me to believe. It's honestly kinda crazy to say that out of all the horror properties, Chucky is strangely the most consistent. At least in continuity, that is. While other long-running movie series would skip certain sequels or discontinue the original timeline for a reboot timeline, Halloween did that 3 times, Jesus Christ, Chucky hasn't. He has had one full story with no sequel being ignored, even if they have a bad reputation. This is ignoring the reboot made in 2019, which wasn't made by Don Mancini. But even after the reboot came and went, the original Chucky just kept doing his thing, and there is currently a Chucky TV series, which is continuing the original story from 1988. Season 2 is currently airing, by the way, you should go and watch it. And another thing is how different these movies can be tonally. The first movie is more psychological horror, while Child's Play 2 and 3 are more regular slashers. Bride of Chucky, the 4th movie, added self-referential humor, mostly due to the effect that Scream had on the horror genre back in the late 90s. Seed of Chucky went for a full comedy approach, and kind of also a soap opera at the same time. And yeah, the movie didn't do well. Curse of Chucky returned the movie back to its horror roots with zero comedy, and then Cult of Chucky continued with Curse that built up, but it re-added the comedy, which in my opinion was a good call. And finally, the TV show currently airing right now, which adds more humor while still keeping it a slasher. And while it can be debated if the addition of comedy was good for the Chucky series or not, today I want to ignore all of that and go back to the original movie that started it all. So enough introductions, let's get on to the plot. So the plot is relatively pretty simple. The Lakeshore Strangler Charles Lee Ray, nicknamed Chucky, has been gunned down by Detective Mike Norris in a toy store in Chicago. In order to cheat death, Charles uses an incantation to transfer his soul into a good guy doll. We then meet 6-year-old Andy Barkley and his struggling mom Karen. One day at her job, Karen's friend Maggie tells her that some guy in the alleyway is selling a good guy doll for dirt cheap, and buys the doll off him since Andy really wants a good guy doll for his birthday. Karen then goes to deliver the toy to Andy before she has to work a double shift, with Maggie watching Andy for her. Shortly after, Maggie gets killed by Chucky via hitting her with a toy hammer, causing her to lose her balance and walk into a really breakable window. When she falls out of it, and falls onto a car. Karen then comes home to a police investigation going on, but tells him to leave after Detective Norris proposes that Andy might have killed Maggie. The next day, Karen drops Andy off at daycare, only for Chucky to tell Andy to skip school and to instead take him where Eddie Caputo lived. Eddie Caputo was Chucky's old partner in crime, / getaway driver who abandoned Chucky during the beginning of the movie. Chucky ends up killing Caputo via tricking him into blowing up his house while he's still inside. Karen goes to the police station again, where Andy and Chucky are being interviewed, and while Andy says that Chucky did it, strangely enough, nobody believes him. So they take Andy away to a mental institution, while Karen goes back home with Chucky. After learning that Chucky's been talking without batteries this whole time in this really nice scene, she threatens to burn him if he doesn't talk, and well, he sure definitely talked.
You stupid you filthy slut! Did you with me?
Karen tries to tell Mike that Chucky is alive, but he doesn't believe her. That is until Chucky tries to kill Mike while driving his own car. Chucky ends up failing after Mike gets a shot at him, and he runs off. He ends up running to the person who taught him all the voodoo stuff, John. But John tells Chucky that the longer he stays in the body, the more human he'll become, but refuses to tell Chucky how to transfer his soul due to not liking the Chuckster. That is until Chucky breaks all his bones via a voodoo dummy, which John has for some reason. John finally tells Chucky that the only way to transfer his soul is into the first person he told his real name to, which just so happened to be Andy. Chucky repays John by killing him, and begins to go find Andy. Andy manages to escape the mental hospital to avoid Chucky and goes home and barricades the front door. Too bad this apartment has a chimney. Excuse me, what? Whatever. Chucky knocks out Andy and begins his incantation migration. He's almost finished with it until Karen and Mike come in to stop him. Karen manages to get him into the fireplace with Andy setting him on fire. And instead of it, killing him, it just gives Chuck a melted face, and despite his legs, arms, and head being shot off later, the dude is still alive somehow. Well, that is until Mike finally shoots him in the heart, which finally puts an end to Charles Lee Ray. At least for now. And that was Child's Play. Okay, for being made in 1988, the puppetry is honestly really impressive. While Gremlins showed off great advances in animatronics in 1984, I think this movie helped push it further. Chucky can be really expressive at times, and it's really cool seeing him move around and stand, so you can see his full body. And thinking about this now, I think that's why people find Chucky so scary. This movie could have easily gone and showed Chucky only through POV angles, so we never see him, or have it be in angles where you only see his hand or something. But no, they don't cheap out. You see him moving, walking, talking, and killing. And because it looks like a doll is moving on its own, it made many people, myself included, terrified that our own toys can come to life and try and kill us. So I say that they did a pretty good job on that. Plus, when you learn that it took up to 9 puppeteers to move Chucky, it makes it even more impressive. And while the scenes where they swapped out with the animatronic for a human looks considerably less good in a way, it's a lot easier to tell that it's a guy in a suit, I still think it's impressive how they set a literal guy on fire. Oh yeah, they did that. That scene with Chucky on fire, that wasn't a toy or anything. They literally set a human on fire, and that's awesome. But that's enough of the puppetry. It's time to move on to the actual pros. First things first, the puppetry is really good, but I already mentioned that before, so let's move on. Another pro I have is the child acting. Alex Vincent was a really good actor for his age, and while he may stumble on his lines from time to time, he balances being cute while also being a good actor in general. He would go on to play Andy for Child's Play 2, and then reprise his role in Curse and Cult, as well as the TV series as an adult Andy. The fact that Alex decided to come back years later to still play Andy is amazing and something you don't see in other movie series. Though that is mostly due to the child actors either losing their career after no longer being a child, or they're treated badly on set, which thankfully Don treats his cast really well. Watch interviews and see how the actors treat each other as family. It's so wholesome, it's something you sadly don't see much in Hollywood. So it's nice when you see stuff like that. I got off track, let's go back to the movie. Another pro is the psychological aspect. Chucky lays low for half the movie, and I think that was a great idea that benefited the movie a lot. Considering how Chucky doesn't do anything in the first half to even tease that he might be alive, does make the audience think for even just a second that Andy really did kill all those people and Chucky really is just a doll. Of course we know it's not true, but it is interesting seeing how the movie kind of wants you to think that. And I think it makes Chucky revealing himself even more impressive. Another pro are the characters. Karen is just such a good character. She just wants to be able to make her son happy, but can't due to not having much money. And when she finds out that Chucky really is alive, she goes and tries as hard as she can to figure out how to stop him. In fact, all the characters are likable in some way, since you can see where they're coming from. Of course you won't believe someone if they told you that a doll came to life and killed someone. It makes it better when the character finally sees the doll come to life and is now fully convinced. That is what we call character development. I also like Chucky's character. He's just such an interesting character to analyze. He seems to have this ego with how he blames his voodoo teacher for getting him into this mess, despite him literally having a choice to just not use the voodoo. Or how he got mad and screamed at Mike at the beginning of the movie, saying how he killed him after Mike landed a shot on him. It's like he thinks he's the main character and is mad that he's given injustice. It's hilarious. I also like the setting of Chicago. You see a lot of 1980s Chicago during the part where Andy is taking Chucky to see Eddie Caputo. It's like a time capsule of the late 80s and it's really cool to see. But this movie isn't perfect, and has some, while not many, cons. How many? Let's see. First things first, let me set this con up. When I first went to watch this movie, I expected this movie to have pacing issues, mainly that it would drag on. To my shock, the opposite happened. The movie feels like it's going too fast. It feels like some scenes were cut out, and because of that, some other scenes feel off or like they're missing context. For example, Mike tells Karen that he's going home. Then in the very next scene, he's back at the police station. Maybe have like a tiny scene of him driving and then he makes a turn. You know, show like a transition and not just have it go straight to him at the police office when we were told that he was gonna go home. I know later on in the movie he mentions this and even says like, yeah, I decided to stop at the police station before going home. But that was later in the movie. I just wish that it was maybe like a transition or even like a simple fade out. It comes to nobody's shock that the movie did have some scenes cut out. A lot actually. To the point that the original movie's run was 2 hours. Most scenes cut out were scenes of Chucky being alive before the big reveal. And while I do believe that those scenes were cut out for the better, some other scenes I feel like they should have kept. Like for example, in one of the few deleted scenes that hasn't been lost to time, we see Andy showing Chucky around his room. It shows character interaction and I don't feel like it would have dragged the movie out too long if it was kept in. Instead, I feel like the movie was trying to go scene by scene at a kind of fast pace with all these scenes cut out. Another con isn't Child's Play's fault, but more so the sequels. The movie has issues that I think would go on to be fixed in later entries, like setting up the cast better or seeing more Chucky. Any problem that I have in this movie was most likely fixed in Child's Play 2, or frankly any other sequels. And it's hard to really describe these issues that I'm mentioning but not listing. It's more of something where you can tell there's room for improvement, which the sequels deliver upon. And that's all my cons. Like I said, short list. Overall, Child's Play is a pretty good movie. Any flaw I have with this movie was later fixed in its many sequels, and it's a no-brainer why this movie did so well, spawning many more sequels to come. Some were good, some were meh, but overall, none of them were bad. I would give this movie a 7 out of 10. And memories. Back when I was taller than 1 foot. Oh my god, everything's on fire! Why did I let it get this bad?